Some of the statements that the Bible makes seem harsh and sometimes crude, but they are always truthful. One in particular seems especially true at this present time. It is found in 2 Peter 2, verse 22, and I quote it. "But it has happened unto them, according to the true proverb, the dog is turned to his own vomit again, and the sow that was washed to her wallowing in the mire." You know, at one time, the goal of a young American who wanted to work in law enforcement and defend the high ideals upon which the American Republic was founded was to be an FBI agent. This was an organization that commanded the highest respect, a respect that was willingly given by the American public. Today, however, people have come to believe that the FBI is enforcing the law in politically sensitive cases in a disturbingly partisan manner, to the detriment of freedom and liberty. Now, however, there is a growing number of Americans who do not trust the FBI and have come to regard it as a domestic terrorist organization supporting the corrupt goals of a far-left government that has little or no interest in defending the defenseless. With these troubling words in mind, let's look at the FBI. It is no surprise that there are a growing number of Americans who are coming to regard the FBI with suspicion and distrust. In September of 2022, Mark Houck, the pro-life father of 7, was arrested by the FBI at his Pennsylvania home. The case garnered national interest amid shocking details of the arrest and allegations that the federal government is targeting its political opponents, in this case pro-lifers. Houck was manhandled and arrested in front of his terrified wife and kids. Mrs. Houck later explained that agents, quote, had about 5 guns pointed at my husband, myself, and basically at my kids, close quotes. A month earlier, on August the 8th of 2022, approximately 30 FBI agents executed a search warrant at Mar-a-Lago, the residence of former U.S. President Donald Trump in Palm Beach, Florida. As details of what was called a raid emerged, the outrage from American citizens in conservative circles was like a rising tidal wave. Then House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy stated, "The Department of Justice has reached an intolerable state of weaponized politicization," close quotes. McCarthy promised vigorous oversight hearings should Republicans take control of the House of Representatives. Kevin Roberts, an American academic who is the president of the Heritage Foundation, said, "The Biden administration and the D.C. swamp are making it very clear that they will use all the power of the state to intimidate anyone who stands in their way. If they think they can treat a former president this way, imagine what they think they can do to the average American," close quotes. FBI agents who searched former President Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago residence also combed through his wife, Melania Trump's wardrobe. She says she felt violated. In announcing the raid, Mr. Trump hit out at the FBI agents for breaking into his private safe. Quote, "Such an assault could only take place in broken third world countries. Sadly, America has now become one of those countries corrupt at a level never seen before," close quotes. So, brethren, let's face the truth. This present administration consists of a leadership that shows all the signs of having a reprobate mind, described in Romans chapter 1, verse 28, quote, "And even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a reprobate mind to do those things which are not convenient." This is an outrageous and un-American development. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. In other words, the dog has returned to his own vomit, and the pig is back in the mud. America is quickly sinking into totalitarian quicksand from which there is no exit. Joe Biden is clearly God's final warning to America. Now, this is not just colorful and descriptive rhetoric, it's the plain truth. The Department of Justice is becoming glaringly partisan. The DOJ should be renamed the DOI, the Department of Injustice. Why, for example, would Biden appoint 87,000 new IRS agents and leave our borders virtually unprotected? Why not appoint 87,000 new Border Patrol agents instead? Obviously, the great fear of the Biden administration is not the drug cartels, the Muslim terrorists, and the COVID-infected people who are rolling into America by the busload. The great fear of this administration are Christian families and God-fearing Americans who will not bow down before a corrupt Caesar. Let's move on to another area where confused government bureaucrats are displaying their reprobate minds. Is misgendering a trans student a crime? Should a person who misgenders a biologically born female student as a girl be penalized and maybe arrested? A Christian school teacher by the name of Sutcliffe in the UK was removed from his position as the teacher at the Cherwell School in Oxfordshire after he allegedly discriminated against a student by stating, quote, "Well done, girls," when addressing the student's small group during class. Sutcliffe was the focus of a number of allegations by the Teaching Regulation Agency, the so-called TRA, during the group's professional conduct panel recently. Sutcliffe was also accused of sharing his opposition to same-sex marriage after he was asked by a student about his views. On his YouTube channel, Sutcliffe also described the Islamic prophet Muhammad as a, quote, false prophet. In addition, Sutcliffe added, quote, "The fruit of Islam is not peace, it's division." Sutcliffe, who regularly preached on the street and says that he has given out over 2,000 Bibles to members of the public, has said he was unlawfully targeted and punished by the school because he had been vocal about his Christian beliefs. None of Sutcliffe's views are out of the ordinary. There are many individuals in the UK and in the United States who do not approve of transgenderism. Moreover, there are many on both sides of the Atlantic who would agree with Sutcliffe's concerns about Islam. I think most of my viewers would agree with me. This is terribly wrong. Sutcliffe is entitled to his opinions, especially since they are the same opinions held by a large segment of the Christian community. Now let's leave England and take a look at what is happening in the United States. Let's look at the statistics regarding porn. Is there something strange here? Penalizing a Christian young man for holding views that are not at all at odds and which in fact are views held by millions of people worldwide, should we penalize him? And yet another practice, free and open access to pornography, a practice which has many verifiable harmful and negative effects, is flourishing without any penalty. Isn't that odd? Joshua Sutcliffe is punished for misgendering someone, but pornography is flourishing right under the noses of governments, legislators, and courts. Let's look a little more closely at this strange and very unfair phenomenon. According to a Christian Post article by Robin Shoemaker, the top 3 porn sites alone account for nearly 6 billion visits per month. That is quite a large number, considering the fact that the world's population in 2022 was 8 billion. One recent study reports that over 90% of men and over 60% of women surveyed had viewed porn in the past month. One of the provable, demonstrable effects of porn is the exploitation, degradation, and representation of women as mere sex objects. Where are the cries and protests from the women? Another provable, demonstrable effect of porn is the desensitization and abusive treatment of human beings, people, for sexual pleasure. Just think of the trafficking that is taking place right now at the U.S.-Mexican border. Porn is also a pathway to horrible and sick crime. Ted Bundy, in his last interview, divulged that his serial killing spree began with an addiction to pornography. So how is it that porn is still legal? How do lawyers fighting to protect their porn-disseminating clients keep the websites open? You will find it hard to believe, but here's what the lawyers do. They claim that viewing the naked artwork of Da Vinci, Michelangelo, and Rembrandt is no different than what is shown on porn sites. You know, the philosophers of old taught that the nature of a thing can be known by its effects. So, If the lawyers are right, the artworks of the masters should produce the same effects as porn. How many women were exploited because of viewing Michelangelo's statue of David? How many Ted Bundys were produced by looking at an artwork by Da Vinci? How many little children were defiled because of the naked cherubim in some of the paintings of old? As I close, I want to mention just one more example of where America is at the present time, in the cesspool of confusion. A man who was wearing a shirt with the words, "Jesus is the only way," was asked to leave the huge Mall of America in Bloomington, Minnesota. The back of the man's shirt reads, "Jesus is the only way," and includes the well-known coexist symbol crossed out. The security guard raised his voice and said, "Jesus is associated with religion, and it's offending people." The guard then tells the man to remove his shirt or leave the mall. "I didn't say anything, though," the man replies. "I didn't speak. I didn't say anything. I just went to Macy's." The guard says, "Again, I'm giving you a couple of options. Take the shirt off and you can go to Macy's and you can do your shopping, or you can leave the mall, okay?" Those are the only options right now. A second cut in the same clip shows the guard getting angry as he sharply tells the man, "If you want to shop here, you need to take that shirt off." The man asks, "What's wrong with the shirt?" And the guard replies with his voice still raised, "That it's religious soliciting. There's no soliciting allowed on mall property, which is private property." The guard adds, "We've had guests come up saying that they've been offended by your shirt. Take the shirt off and you can go shopping." John 3:16 says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life." Someone once said, "People need love the most when they deserve it the least."